The Mauryan Empire, 321 BCE to 223 BCE. When we left our studies of India, the government structures of India were small kingdoms ruled by one person. This changed when a poor military leader from one of the kingdoms arose to conquer many of the individual kingdoms and created an empire. This young man's name was Chandragupta, and the empire he founded is called the Mauryan Empire. It was in power from 321 BCE to 223 BCE. The empire extended from Bengal to the Hindu Kush mountains, and within 10 years of beginning his rule, he had invaded and conquered most of northern India. He was considered a ruthless warrior and was greatly feared by surrounding rulers. While Chandragupta was considered to be a just and fair ruler who allowed prosperity for all of his subjects, he continued to advocate and abroad was considered a ruthless warrior. Chandragupta had a change of heart towards the end of his life and became weary of warfare and spent his last years meditating in the mountains. He ultimately starved himself to death, and his search for deeper meaning is marked in stone on a mountaintop in northern India. After his passing, his son Bindusara came to rule for a short period of time and continued Chandragupta's quest to enlarge his empire by moving it further south. It is Ashoka, Chandragupta's grandson, called the empire builder, who is considered the greatest Mauryan leader. During his reign, he enlarged the empire to include people of 60 different beliefs and languages. He created more than 1,000 miles of roads and created a system of government that provided services to all of his people. Ashoka continued to battle to increase his empire. His last battle is considered one of the bloodiest in history, the battle for Kalinga. It is estimated that the battle killed 100,000 on both sides of the fighting, and there were 100,000 in casualties. As Ashoka looked out on the battlefield, he saw the tremendous loss of life, and this changed his thinking forever. He traveled his empire looking for a new way to rule. Ashoka traveled his empire looking for new ways to govern in a non-violent way. He found Buddhist priests who explained their beliefs, and he was suddenly transformed. Up until this time, Buddhism was a very small religion practiced by a few hundred followers. Ashoka took the religion from a small religion and made it an important part of his government. His ideas, which connected Buddhism, general welfare, justice, and security, were called his Wheel of Law. They included Buddhist values, and these edicts encouraged the Buddhist teachings. They asked people to be loving and respectful and to practice nonviolence. They said people should not get attached to worldly things, such as money. They also told people to act morally, do right rather than wrong. They included general welfare. These edicts promoted people's well-being, and they were intended to make sure people had good health, shelter, clean water, and enough food. Justice. These edicts were regarded fair laws. They described the way people were to be treated in the empire's courts and jails. Security. These edicts were concerned with enemies of the Mauryan Empire and people who were not citizens. They often dealt with the issues of peace and conquest. Ashoka believed so strongly in his transformation to Buddhist beliefs and his Wheel of Law that he sent his son to Ceylon and to other areas as far away as Egypt to spread the message of Buddhism. Ashoka's Wheel of Law is still important in India, as evidenced by its symbolism in the current Indian flag. Ashoka led by example, building irrigation and wells throughout the country, creating rest stops for travelers, and he believed that he alone could not teach all about Buddhism. And people needed constant reminders of his edicts so that they would follow the Four Noble Truths and the Eightfold Paths. To this end, he wanted to make sure that all of his people were aware of his edicts, and he posted them on large poles throughout India. At least 20 of these are still standing today, and remnants of other parts have been found across India. As you can see from this map, the pillars that were erected by Ashoka spread all the way across India. Ashoka died in 223 BC, and India again was divided into small kingdoms and warring factions. Ashoka is credited with spreading the ideas of Buddhism and creating the wheel of law and government that was based on Buddhist principles. He's often considered one of the kindest of leaders in history.